I'm so excited to have you today. I'm so excited to be chatting about cycle syncing, especially with your business, as something that I've been kind of hyper focused on the last like 3 to 6 months. So thank you for being here. What is cycle syncing in your own words? Like, can you kind of give a rundown for anyone that's like maybe wondering or hasn't heard of that before?
So, depending on which atmosphere you're in with cycle syncing, there is cycle syncing for exercise, there's productivity, which I'll be talking about, there's seed cycling, there's a whole bunch of cycling going on. Where I love to live is productivity and cycle syncing. What I like to do is kind of follow the 80-20 rule because we cannot control everything in our lives and have it so where, depending on the phase of my cycle I'm in, I match what things I'm doing either in my life or my business. So I don't overexert myself and I can take on those like boosts of energies when they're happening. So I'm not trying to do the opposite thing at the opposite timing of energy wise. So syncing your business tasks or even your household tasks or whatnot to your cycle is where I'm going at.
Okay, I love that. No, I think that's great. I had started noticing ebbs and flows in my energy probably 2 years ago, mostly in my creative energy. And it was really interesting to me because I was not menstruating at the time and trying to time when that was so that I could have some predictions so that I could be planning my week accordingly. Because there's nothing like, and you probably know the phase, and I'm horrible with the phases, but there's nothing like being super, super low energy and being like, well, I was going to do 15 TikToks this week, but like I cannot bring myself to do it. And there is no spark here. And then having the week where I've laid out all of my client calls and being like, damn, I have all the creative energy. Like I want to do everything and not having the time. And that was like so frustrating for me to feel like I was balancing those, but balancing them improperly.
Right. And so the phases, do you want to just start talking about the
I would
phases?
love that. Yeah.
Leeway here. So typically people start with the menstruation phase. And every time I'm going to talk about a phase, I'll also give a moon phase in case you are not menstruating, because that can also affect you. We are mostly water. The moon affects water, so it will affect us. So for the menstrual phase is when your energy basically is flat. Either it's getting flat if you're in the beginning of it, or it's about to go completely flat. It's a great time, and this is where the new moon is. So think about it, more darkness, more like you're turning in. You can go deeper into your intuition, but not so much, getting out there or even being super creative. You might be depending on, other factors that you have, like I said, other transits you have going on. But generally, this is a looking within time, deeper connection to yourself, a lot of rest, a lot of self care. And this is a good time for course correcting as well, because you get to look more deep into yourself instead of being in action mode. The other phase you probably mentioned is at the end of the cycle, about to go into it. So I'll get there in a moment. But the next phase after that is the follicular phase. And that is your high energy. That is great for creativity. It's great for planning, creating goals, putting seeds in new goals, all of the new beginning stuff. And that is the next phase of the moon where it's getting a little brighter towards the full moon. For that one, a lot of people struggle with the transition between the menstrual phase and the follicular phase, especially if you're a person that has chronic illness. Your energy is just trying to catch up to you. So with that, if you're somebody with chronic illness, because this is what I'm always going to infuse as well, is you can rest, be horizontal, and be creative. So if you're still kind of in that weird in between menstrual and follicular, do your creativity from your bed. I have a lounge chair in my office for that exact reason. Sometimes my body has not caught up to my brain. My brain wants to be creative, but my body is like, no, which is totally great. But once you're able to get into that more high physical energy, that's when you can record a lot of your videos, or you can plan your videos or anything like that. This is a great time to harness when you're in a launch as well. So when you're in a launch, like this would be a great time to do like the big push type of situation and all of the initial creation of marketing efforts. And then you're going to go into the full moon or ovulatory. And for some people, this lasts a day. Some people, this lasts 2 to 3 days. I tend to do the 2 to 3 day rule. Great time for collaborating, communicating, all the things that you want to be out there. If you are menstruating and your hormones tend to be, leveled off, this is actually a great time skin wise. So it's also a great time to record because your skin is probably the best at this time too. You're probably glowing, all of that good stuff. But with some people with chronic illness, sometimes that high energy kind of also would probably put you pretty flat too. So depending on where you are with your energy levels in total, again, you could totally do a lot of this like horizontal if you need to. I will get more things done if I prioritize my energy that way. When a lot of this productivity for the menstrual cycle affects more of my brain power because my body and my brain aren't always connected and they're kind of fighting all the time. So if you can, go ahead and lay down and do some work. It's fine. I'll give you that permission if you need it. Oh, and then the last phase is the luteal phase. So this is a time that gets tricky for some people because they're going into their menstrual phase. So they're starting to lower the energy. So this is when you can start turning more inward. You can focus on details. And because you're finishing your cycle, is a good way to remember. If you're finishing your cycle, that means you're finishing projects. So this is a good time to put bows on projects and finish that out before your menstrual comes. And then you have to do the whole like, I need to rest all over again. So it's kind of like a big circle if you think about it that way. And like I said, if you don't menstruate for whatever reason, either birth control or it's not that phase of your life, or you just don't menstruate at all, follow the moon. That would be my best recommendation there for that. And then you could cycle sync with the moon. So when you're talking about more like business tasks and things like that, I'm going to go through the cycle again because that's just how my brain works. The menstrual phase would be a great time for you to review how you did the month before, for you to rest, for you to do more self-care activities, even in business. So if for you a self-care activity is actually doing your bookkeeping, then do that. For me, a self-care task, it would be inbox zero. So making sure that it's fully inbox zero, like around the time my menstrual is about to hit. So I don't have to worry about it. So self-care tasks do exist in your business and in the corporate world. Just making sure that you're set up to be able to rest is a self-care task. That's also, as I mentioned before, time for course correcting. So when you're reviewing your previous month, what do you need to change for this upcoming month? What do you need to focus on, readdress, have conversations, plan out when you're having any difficult conversations, when you have the energy to do that, or any amazing conversations when you have the energy to do that. So it's a great time just to think basically and not do. And then when you get into the follicular phase, again, this is a great time for like launches. Follicular and ovulation are great times for like launches. So if you're planning a launch, look to see what your calendar looks like, especially if you're doing a live launch and you're like the main person of that launch. Make sure that that lines up to you as much as you possibly can. So that would be a great time for those activities, more in-depth planning. If you need a little bit more, you had some scribbles from your menstrual phase and then you want to go deeper later on when you have more energy. And then even creating new relationships because it's a great time for like new beginnings. And then your ovulatory phase, that is when you're going to focus on all the communication, all the collaboration, all the creation of the videos, all of that. And if you're more in the corporate world where you're an employee and not somebody who's running the business, this is a great time for you to schedule some important meetings, or even if you're a salesperson in that business that you're in, it's a great time for you to use your energy to attract new clients or anything like that. Probably a great time for you in general if you're a salesperson because that will give you a lot of energy to get it done. Luteal phase, again, you're going to start turning inward. You're going to finish up projects. This is a great time to finish up projects. Finish putting in the work before your menstrual hits you and you're flat.
The more aware I think, or the more that I pay attention to it, the more I keep seeing seasonality around me, or cycles, right? Everything is based in cycles, whether it's day cycles, month cycles, seasonal cycles, annual cycles. Like there's all of these cycles that I'm just seeing. It's like, there are times where it's like paying attention to all of them and you're like, woof, okay.
Yes. So being a detective of yourself and your business or your job is the most important thing you can do, is always observe. Maybe write down notes for the next time or when you're about to, go through all your inner work for your menstrual phase. But it's good that you brought up seasons because seasons affect me, not just as a person, but as somebody with chronic illness. I don't do well in the heat. So summer is not my best time to get most of my stuff done anyway. Winter, oddly enough, for me, I'm a winter gal. Once it's cool, I am happy and I can get a lot of things done. So with that, the seasonality also affects your energy levels, especially uniquely to you as a person. Trying to figure out when you have the most energy overall in that season will help you because then you can also plan your year much better. Like, for example, if you're a person with chronic illness and you want to have a big thing coming up, you can do a lot of the legwork in the season, for example, for me in winter. Then, when you have the most energy, because you know there's not going to be a whole bunch of things affecting other parts of you. And then you can plan your maybe, again, I'm going to use me because I just did this year. Instead of dying in the, in the summer here, I went to an Alaskan cruise, which was amazing. So I disappeared for like 10 days in a much cooler environment. So you can plan all that so much better if you are a detective of yourself and start learning as much as you can about you as a unique person and not putting yourself in boxes, but seeing where you fit when you fit there. Because you will change as you go through week, through month, through year, even through, again, back to big transits. Every 5 years, things happen, things like that. You have to figure out where all your energy starts to shift and then resettle back down.
Well, that so much of this brings me back to like meditation practice, right? Because like where can you be observing and not judging and like just letting the thoughts, the emotions, like anything that comes up, like just exist and being an observer prior to just like snap judgment or taking action based on like where can you be mindful and observant. It's so easy, I think, especially in the like hustle, 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 go, 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 do everything, all of the things every day, to conscientiously like take a step back from that and intentionally like slow it down, observe, and course correct instead of having that like frantic energy, having the like calming, grounded, centered, like peaceful energy that feels safer, feels better, feels more sustainable.
Exactly. No, sustainability is one of the things I always focus on. If it's not sustainable, and I'm not talking about like eco products, even though that's great and all, energetically sustainable. Because if it's not sustainable, you're going to burn out. And I've been there. That's how I ended up with one of my main chronic illnesses. It's not fun. I highly do not suggest it. And it has to do back with, I don't know if you've ever read the book Laziness Does Not Exist. I don't know if we've
No,
talked
but
about
I
that.
own it. It's sitting on the bookshelf in the other room.
It's a great book. Even if you only get through chapter 1, it will piss you off, but in the best way. And getting away from the you have to work in order to feel worth something. No. There are different types of productivity. One that I focus on the most is kind of like inactive productivity, if you want to say it that way. I don't like saying it that way, but it's the best way to get it through people, where rest is productivity. If you don't rest, you cannot plan. You cannot be a good leader. You cannot run a business. You can't really do anything. You will burn out and then everything else will change. So two ways you can think of rest. Is it filling your cup, or is it you're helping your cup not overflow? That is your rest. So either giving you energy or removing that anxious energy. That is your rest. That is like the basic way you can think about it.
I love that. I love that. Those are great examples of rest that's not just sleeping. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I think for so many of us, we're like, oh yeah, I rested, I slept last night. But like, did you sleep and then just like work 16 hours and not do and like
Window shopping is my favorite way of resting.
a
I'm not
bad
talking
idea?
to anybody. I'm not spending money, but I'm not doing anything that causes me stress either.
I love that. Okay. So Christy,
Mhm.
anything else, if like someone were to have one main takeaway, and I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say, but I want you to say it anyways. If anyone were to have one main takeaway when it comes to cycles and productivity and like syncing your cycles with your business, what would you want them to take away from this?
Be a detective with grace. So, like you said, don't judge yourself. Just observe yourself, see where things are going, and then implement them as you need.